Good morning, everyone. My name is Seungju. I'm from Princeton University, and I'm very flattered to have this separate session for my paper. And I'm really excited to talk to you all about QUIC evaluating connection migration based QUIC censorship circumvention. This work was done in collaboration with my colleagues at Princeton University and the Great Firewall Report. First, we'll talk a bit about QUIC. QUIC is a UDP-based multiplexed transport layer protocol that was first proposed by Google in 2012 and standardized by the IETF in 2021. QUIC was proposed to overcome some of the problems that TCP had, including head-of-line blocking and the fact that it's not encrypted by default, it has to be bundled with TLS. So QUIC has a number of security and performance features, which include obviously no head-of-line blocking and encryption by default using TLS. And QUIC is now supported by most modern browsers, including Chrome and Chromium-based browsers like Edge and Opera, Safari, Firefox, and many others. QUIC is also the basis of HTTP3, which is the newest HTTP standard, also standardized in 2021. And as of earlier this month, Cloudflare reported that over 30% of HTTP traffic worldwide was based on HTTP3 and QUIC. QUIC, like many other protocols, is subject to censorship. Now, censorship based on the unencrypted SNI field in the client hello has been common in TCP TLS traffic. Now, QUIC technically encrypts most of its traffic as much as is practical by default, and that technically does include the client hello, but the protection on QUIC initial packets, the packets that contain the client hello, do not provide confidentiality. That's because the encryption keys are based on publicly available information, such as a public salt and a connection ID, which is a non-encrypted part of QUIC packets. Now, governments have already begun to exploit this fact to prosecute QUIC traffic. Russia began QUIC SNI censorship between 2022 and 2023, and China has also begun to prosecute QUIC traffic based on SNI in 2024. So based on how the Chinese Great Firewall has been censoring QUIC traffic, our threat model assumes a stateless censor that wants to block access to websites using the server name. If a client wants to connect to a blocked domain with an unblocked IP address, the first thing a server would do is block the DNS request that contains this blocked domain name. But even if the client has some external method to obtain the IP address, the censor can still identify this blocked domain name within the client hello in the not very securely encrypted QUIC initial packet and block this QUIC connection. So we wanted to design a protocol that would first circumvent QUIC SNI censorship, and we had additional goals. We wanted to reduce costs for clients and providers of handshake channels. By handshake channels, we mean secure channels like VPNs that can be used to establish the initial QUIC connection in QUICstep, the role of which we'll discuss in subsequent slides. Also, we wanted our protocol to induce minimal performance overhead for clients. Our design is based on two key observations. The first is that censors often base their filters on the information-rich handshake packets. These are the client hellos in QUIC and TCP TLS traffic, which include fields like cipher suits and server name, which are things that censors often want to use when they determine what traffic they want and don't want. Our second observation is that QUIC has a really cool feature called connection migration. QUIC connections, unlike TCP connections, are defined by this thing called a connection ID rather than IP and port pairs. This enables connections to be maintained even when endpoint addresses change. This is particularly useful for mobile clients whose IP addresses may change mid-connection. If the IP address of a client changes during a connection, a TCP client would have to reestablish a new connection with the server. However, in QUIC, if the client continues to use a connection ID that was previously established with the server, it can continue to communicate with the server using the same connection and not have to establish a new connection. This is, of course, beneficial for performance. Based on these two key observations, we propose QUICstep, a framework that splits handshake and non-handshake packets across different network paths to circumvent censorship. To break it down, a QUICstep client first performs a DNS request and a quick handshake through a secure handshake channel like a VPN. Then it can migrate the quick connection to the native connection between the client and the server. At this point, the quick traffic is securely encrypted via TLS encryption in QUIC, and the sensor does not have visibility into this traffic. We verified that QUICstep could successfully circumvent the Chinese Great Firewall. We targeted several TikTokCDN.com domains that were blocked via QUIC SNI but not IP address. Prior work has shown that the Chinese censorship via QUIC SNI is probabilistic. It doesn't trigger all the time, but once it's triggered, the connection to that endpoint is blocked for some amount of time. We verified that a QUICstep client would succeed repeatedly in connecting to these domains, while a non-QUICstep client would fail after several attempts. We evaluated the performance impact of QUICstep on clients and handshake channel providers. We measured the amount of traffic that is sent through the handshake channel proxy in a QUICstep connection and a fully proxied connection. We measured the amount of traffic when connecting to 100 different domains that supported QUICstep and found that QUICstep succeeded in reducing the load on the proxy by a median of 93%. This can help reduce costs for handshake channel providers who are often constrained for the bandwidth they can provide, and clients who may be using pay-as-go programs. We also found that QUICstep successfully reduced page load time for the majority of websites. With the left figure shows the page load time of QUICstep versus fully proxied connections when connecting to the same set of 100 different domains. This line represents the y=x line, and we find that for most websites, QUICstep succeeds in reducing page load time significantly compared to VPNs. The figure on the right demonstrates this page load time in more detail, where we see that the page load time of QUICstep connections closely follow that of the native connection. That's because the page load time represents the time from the first part of the website arriving to the client until it completes, which mostly happens after the connection is established, which most of this traffic happens via the native channel in QUICstep. So the page load time of QUICstep connections closely follow that of the native connection, being much more efficient than the VPN. For a client to be able to use QUICstep, the target server has to support both QUIC and connection migration. We evaluated how much support for QUIC and connection migration existed in the wild. And in November 2024, between November 2024 and April 2026, we saw an increase in QUIC support across Tronco top million domains. More excitingly, we saw that support for connection migration, which is actually a feature that's part of the QUIC standard and a feature that we expect all QUIC servers to support, was only around 31K in November 2024, but increased almost sevenfold in April 2026. We envision that support for QUIC and connection migration will increase over time. For large-scale deployment of QUICstep, again, we emphasize that there should be more support for QUIC and connection migration among servers. Second, we found that identifying whether a server supports connection migration or not is often non-trivial in the wild. So we emphasize that there should be a standardized mechanism like more active use of the disable active migration feature, disable active migration flag from QUIC, to enable clients to discover connection migration support more effectively. Also, we're investigating how QUICstep can be integrated into useful deployments. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to discussions in the poster session.
Thank you.